Hi, this video is a sample problem video to help you understand how to do unit analysis conversions in a college prep chemistry class. So we have here a sample problem. This one is asking if you start off with a measurement of 9.43 times 10 to the 7th millimeters. The question is, how many miles would that be? All right. And I have here already the equalities that will be necessary. So what you're trying to do here is you want to set up a grid. You always need to use a grid when doing unit analysis problems. And when you do a grid, your starting point always goes in the first, what is known as a cell. Okay? And you draw a horizontal line and you draw a vertical. Now remember, each one of these things that the vertical divides is a cell. You have a top cell and a bottom cell, and the vertical lines represent multiplication, and the horizontal line represents division. When you're setting up a grid, you want to have all of the units cancel out except for the unit of our endpoint. So we have our starting point, and we have our end point. Starting point goes here, and I start off by saying, well, look, there's millimeters there. So I want that exact same units down here so that they will cancel out. So I have millimeters here, I want to put millimeters there. And I look for it amongst my equalities. They're right there. So I take that whole thing, number and all, so 1,000 millimeters goes there, and whatever it's equal to, in this case 1 meter, goes on top. All right, whatever it's equal to goes on top. Once you use an equality, cross it out or check it off. Don't use it again. Now we have more equalities, so we need more vertical lines. I recommend that you don't draw the vertical lines until you actually write the numbers in. That way you have enough room. Also, when you're all done, you have one vertical line per equality. All right. So now we're not at miles yet. So we have meters. We want to have meters down here. So I look for meters, and they're right there. Can't use this one. We've already used it. So I got to use this one. So I put the 1 meter there on the bottom, and what it's used to, so equal to 0.001 kilometers goes on top. Cross that one out. And I'm still not in miles yet, so I need one more vertical line. And now I have kilometers on top. Again, I want to have kilometers on the bottom. And I'm going to use that one. Can't use this one because I've already used it. So that one. So that's 1.6 kilometers, and it's equal to 1 mile goes on the top. Now let me verify that I've set this up correctly. So I have millimeters canceling out with millimeters, meters with meters, kilometers with kilometers, and the only unit that doesn't cancel out is miles, and that's exactly where I want to end up. So now I have to do the math. Now when I do the math, it's very simple. The numbers on top, you multiply. Numbers on the bottom, you divide. Ignore the ones. They don't matter. It doesn't matter if you multiply or divide by 1. So on my calculator, all right, so I got my calculator here, and I'm going to start off by having 9.43 times 10 to the 7th. On this calculator, all right, that looks like that. That means, so that number and that number is the same thing. If I had a different type, I would just go times 10 to the 7th. And now this is on the bottom, so I then go divided by, because it's on the bottom, 1,000. And then over here, this is on top, so I'm going to go times 0.001. And then this number's on the bottom, so I'm going to divide again. Divided by 1.6. And I equal, now my calculator, this says 5.8938 times 10 to the 1st. since it's in scientific notation. Basically, that's 58.938. So 58.938. But the rule is for significant figures that however many significant figures there are in the starting point, that's how many you need to round your answer off into having. Since I have 3 of them here, I need to round this off so that it also has 3. So that means I round off after the 3rd significant figure right there. That 3 does not change the 9. Remember, if that was a 5 or greater, that would mean the 9 would round up, but it's not. So the answer simply is 58.9, and the units are miles. And there's the answer to the first question. Now the second question, all right, make sure we do this. Second question is a bit more complicated. This one uses a compound unit. Up here, we just had a single unit, a regular unit, millimeters. Here, this is using a compound unit, which has pounds per yard, cubic yard, whereas this is grams per cubic centimeter. So I want to convert from 14.7 pounds per cubic yard to the unknown number of grams per cubic centimeter. And I have here a whole bunch of equalities that I'm going to be able to use. So the first step is I take my starting point, and again, that goes in the top left-hand cell. Now, because this is a compound unit, the pounds go on top. And since it's per cubic yard, the cubic yard goes on the bottom. All right? And I will have to cancel out both of those and have on top grams and on the bottom cubic centimeters. So it doesn't matter which one I start with. So I'm just going to start with pounds. I have pounds on top here, so I'm going to want to have pounds on the bottom here. So I look for it, and they're right there. So I can go 1 pound, and that's equal to 0.45 kilograms. Remember, whatever it's equal to goes on top. So I've used that one, and I cross it out. And I want to end up with grams on top, so I only have kilograms on top right now. So I need to cancel that out. So I have another equality. Kilograms here, I want kilograms here. I'm going to use this one right here. So I have 1 kilogram on the bottom to cancel out, and I have 1,000 grams on the top. Now, if you notice, pounds cancel, kilograms cancel, and I'm left with grams as a numerator. It's on top, which is where I want to be. Currently, I have grams per cubic yard. I need to change that cubic yards until it's cubic centimeters. Now, my first equality is right here. It says that 1 cubic yard is equal to 0.76 cubic meters. Well, since I have cubic yards on the bottom, I'm going to want to put that 1 right here, that 1 cubic yard on top so that they cancel out. Doesn't matter if they're all the way separated. That's still on the bottom, and that's on top, so it can cancel out. And what it's equal to, in this case, 0.76 cubic meters would go on the bottom. So if I use this one. Now, the last one's a little bit tricky here. Now, I could have just written down the equality for 1 cubic meter equals how many cubic centimeters, but I didn't. I have 1 meter is equal to 100 cubic centimeters. So if I want to find out what 1 cubic meter is equal to, I need to take that 100 centimeters and I need to cube that as well. So 100 cubed. So on my calculator, 100 cubed, 100, and then on here, it is y to the x button. So I do that, and then cubed, that equals 1 million. Okay, that's a million. So 1 cubic meter is equal to 1 million cubic centimeters, or simply 1 times 10 to the 6th cubic centimeters. All right? Doesn't matter which one you use, they mean exactly the same thing. It says that this is easier to write. So I have cubic meters here, so I want to have cubic meters on top. So 1 cubic meter, and that's equal to 1 times 10 to the 6th cubic centimeters on the bottom, or simply 1,000,000 cubic centimeters, same thing. So now I'm going to go and notice that that cancels out, and I'm left with grams on top and cubic centimeters on the bottom, which is where I want to be. So now it looks crazy, but it's just very simple. If the number's on top, you multiply. Numbers on the bottom, you divide. All right? So move that down a little bit more. I have 14.7. I go to the next cell and I have a number on top. So I'm going to go times 0.45. I go to the next cell, again, it's on top. So I'm going to go times 1,000. The next one over is a number on the bottom, so I'm going to go divided by 0.76. And the next one over, again, it's on the bottom, so I'm going to go divided by 1 times 10 to the 6th equals. And on my calculator, if you can see, I have 8.7039 times 10 to the negative 3. Well, since I have 3 significant figures here, I want to have just the first 3 digits here. That 3 does not change that 0 into a 1 because it's not high enough. So my answer is 8.70 times 10 to the negative 3 grams per cubic centimeter. And there's my answer. So when you're doing these problems, remember, you must show a full grid. This is how you figure out what you multiply by and what you divide by. And this is the main point of teaching you this process. It's not to figure out what the answer is. It's so that you understand the process and use it correctly in order to get the answer. Because remember, later on, we're going to be using this exact same process with things other than unit conversions as far as distances and so forth. All right? So if you need help, please come to tutorial or talk to me, and I'd be happy to help you out. Otherwise, good luck.